All right, so we have our setup. Here it is. Let's look at the questions. Start with number one. It's a list question. Hopefully you know how to do these list questions by now. But as a reminder, what you want to do is take each rule, apply it to all the answer choices, get rid of the answer choices that violate that rule, and then go to the next rule and do the same exact thing. So the first rule says exactly one major is assigned to each bench. Remind myself who the majors are, F, G, H, J. So I want to make sure that I don't have, uh, F, G, H, or J with uh, F, G, H, or J, basically. We don't have two majors on the same bench. Okay, so we want to quickly do this. F, J, H, X, V. That looks like a problem. Yeah, so we're looking at A, and then on the fourth bench, they have Xavier and Yvette together, and on the second bench, they have Joan and Gwen together, and Joan and Gwen are both majors, so that violates that rule, so A's out. Now, probably you get, most likely for each rule, you will get rid of one answer choice, not more than one, but occasionally you'll get rid of more than one. So you really to be thorough, you have to go through all the answer choices, but you might move a little quicker because you really don't expect to get rid of any more. Okay? So again, F, G, H, J, we can make sure that they're not together. We go through B, that one checks out. And you can do this yourself. The rest of them actually all check out. Okay? So there's no two majors together or two non-majors together. So let's go to the next rule. Frank and Joan are assigned to consecutively numbered benches, with Frank assigned to a lower number bench. And then the next rule is Frank is assigned to the same bench as Victor, and that's what got us this rule here. Okay, so we're going to apply these two rules together at the same time, just because we already have put them together, and it's simple enough to apply them at the same time. So wherever we see Frank, we need to see Victor on the same bench, and then we need to see Joan on the very next bench. Okay, so we look at A, Frank and Victor are together, and Joan is on bench two. We look at B, Frank is with Xavier, so we get rid of B. And by the way, I just said we look at A, but we had already gotten rid of A, so I shouldn't be looking at A. Okay, so A and B are both out. Let's check the rest of them for this block, because we did combine the two rules, so actually we expect to get rid of another one, because we're using two rules for elimination here, not just one. So we look at C, Frank is with Victor and Joan is on the next bench, so that checks out. And D, Frank is with Victor, but Joan is not on the next bench, so we get rid of D. And we check E, Frank is with Victor and Joan is on the next bench. So we're left with C and E so far, and we have one more rule. Gwen is not assigned to the same bench as Wanda. So Gwen and Wanda can't be together. They're not together on C, but they are together on bench 2 in E. So E's out, and our answer for number 1 is C. All right, hopefully there's nothing very surprising in how we did that question to you, and that's old hat by now. The key thing is to try to be able to move through those list questions relatively quickly so that you save more time for the more difficult questions. Number two, if Victor is assigned to bench two and Wanda is assigned to bench four, which one of the following must be true? Okay, so this question actually gives us some more information. So let's put it in here. Um, they say they want us to assign Victor to bench two. So let's put Victor in bench two. I'm gonna put this in blue. Actually, let's put it in red. So Victor is in bench two, and that means, of course, that Frank is in bench two also. And the other thing they told us was that Wanda is assigned to bench four. Wanda's a non-major. She goes down here, and she's on bench four. Okay, so let's fill in the rest of what we know. If Frank is on bench two, then Joan has to be on bench three. So that means Joan's here. Okay. Uh, and the question was, which of the following must be true? We do have some things that must be true already. And this is the second question on the exam, which is normally pretty easy, on the game, sorry, which is normally pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and check the answers because I think I might have it already, especially given that it's number two. Um, let's see. So Frank is assigned to bench 1. No, that's not right. Gwen is assigned to bench 1. That could be true. I'm not sure. Henry's assigned to bench 3. So I actually regret, I regret having looked at the answers so quickly because none of them showed up. So we're going to have to do a little more work. Let's see. So who do we have left to think about? Well, one of the guys we have left to think about is G. And W is over here, which means G cannot be on bench 4. So G has to be on bench 1. And a lot of you guys probably are ahead of me on this. G, F, J. So that leaves H to go over here, right? And then who's left on the bottom? V and W. Sorry, V and W are used up. So just to be thorough now, since I stopped prematurely the first time, we'll do that X and Y, and now we can tell them what must be true. A's was out already. Gwen is assigned to bench 1. Yeah, that's the answer. And just to be thorough, for those of you who may have picked C, D, or E, C says Henry is assigned to bench 3. That's impossible. We know Henry's on bench 4. D says Xavier is assigned to bench 1. That is possible. Okay, it's possible. We look over, oops. We look over here, and that is possible. But this is not a could be true question. This is a must be true question. And that does not have to be true. And the same thing with answer choice E. It says Yvette is assigned to bench 3. That's possible over here, but it doesn't have to be true. And since this is a must be true question, that can't be the answer. In fact, we know the answer already is that Gwen is assigned to bench 1. That happened right here, and that has to happen. So that's our answer for number 2. It's B. Okay, number 3. First of all, let me make sure that I undo everything I just put in so that we don't confuse the local information with the global information. When you're doing this on the real test, you really should just draw a particular local diagram for any question that gives you extra information. And hopefully you know that by now. So number 3 says, if Gwen and Henry are not assigned to consecutively numbered benches, which one of the following must be true? So Gwen and Henry are not assigned to consecutively numbered benches. What is that going to tell us? Gwen and Henry are not assigned to consecutively numbered benches. Gwen and Henry are both majors, right? And if they are not next to each other, what that means, if we take a second to think about it, and you might want to pause it here and just give yourself a second to think about it if you're looking at this game for the first time, or if you didn't figure it out the first time around, maybe with a new setup, or you know, with the help that you've gotten so far from this setup, you're able to think through it and figure out, okay, that F and J have to be in that order. So if Gwen and Henry are not going to be next to each other, what it means is they're going to have to be on opposite sides of F and J. Okay, because if they're not on opposite sides, if they're on the same side, then they're going to be next to each other. So what we can figure out based on the fact that Gwen and Henry are not next to each other is that this is going to be F, that this is going to be J, and then we can say that this is either going to be Gwen or Henry, and the same thing here. Okay, and then if F is here, that means that V has to be here also. Okay, so that's what we know, and the question is, which one of the following must be true? So hopefully something that's already on our diagram will show up in the answer choices. Indeed, answer choice A says Victor is assigned to bench 2, and that we know is true right here. It has to be true. So that's the answer. If we look at the rest on the real test, I say this a lot, but I just want to emphasize it. On the real test, when you're trying to save time, you just go, right? You just go to the next question once you're sure of your answer. And in here, we're positive about our answer. But just in case some of you pick B, C, D, or E, and you want to hear really quickly why those are wrong answers, Victor is assigned to bench 3. We can see that that can't happen, in fact. Victor, C says Wanda is assigned to bench 1. So Wanda being assigned to bench 1 is possible, right? As long as we don't assign Gwen here, we could assign Wanda to bench 1, but this is, again, not a question about what could be true. It's a question about what must be true, and we can definitely come up with a solution to this question where Wanda is not assigned to bench 1. So it doesn't have to be true. Wanda is assigned to bench 3. Again, we don't know where Wanda is going to be. So anything they want to, any answer choice that involves assigning Wanda to a particular bench is not going to be a must be true answer. It's not going to be the right answer for this question. So that gets rid of C, D, and E. Okay? And again, the answer is A. So let's do number 4, and then we'll stop and we'll do 5, 6, and 7 in the next video. If Henry and Yvette are both assigned to bench 1, which one of the following could be true? So let's undo everything we just did, and let's put Henry and Yvette on bench 1. So Henry is a major, put him on top. Yvette goes here. Okay. Henry and Yvette are assigned to bench 1, and then they say which one of the following could be true. So let's think if we can come up with any other deductions on this, or if we are just kind of stuck. So give yourself a second to think. Okay, so when we look at this a little bit closer and we think about it for a second, we see that there are actually two templates or two things that we'll have to think about in order to answer this question. So we're going to go ahead and think about this in terms of, we're going to actually draw out two templates. So let's say one here, and just 1 second while I do this, and then the other one here, okay? And hopefully everyone can see that still. And what the two things we have to think about are, oops, we want to still put the y here, okay? So on both of the templates, the y is still going to go there. Now, the reason that we created two was because we can put f here, and then that puts j here, and v here, or we can put, right, f here, and that puts j here, and v here. And those are the two possibilities, okay? And now let's think about who's left, because we have Gwen and Wanda left, and we know Gwen and Wanda can't go with each other, so we're going to have to make sure that we keep them separate, right? And the thing is that we know where Gwen is going to go, okay? We know Gwen is going to go on that on the bottom template. Gwen is going to go there, and on the top template, Gwen is going to go there, which means Wanda on this template has to go here, and so then X would go here, right? And Wanda would go here, which would mean that X has to go here. So those are the two possibilities, all right? And this is a could be true question. So the logic that we have to use to answer this question is, well, we have two solutions. If something is true in either one of those solutions, then it is the answer to this question. All the wrong answers are going to be impossible in both solutions. They're going to be impossible. All right. So let's see. Which one of the following could be true? Gwen is assigned to bench 3. We check both templates, and Gwen is assigned to bench 4 on the top template and bench 2 on the bottom template, so that's not the answer. Joan is assigned to bench 2. Joan is assigned to bench 3 on the top template and 4 on the bottom template, so that's impossible. That's not the answer. Wanda is assigned to bench 2. Wanda is 4, and Wanda is 3. Not possible. Wanda cannot be assigned to bench 2. Wanda is assigned to bench 3. Yes, we just saw that right here, right? So this is the answer because it is possible in the top template. It's not possible in the bottom template, but it is possible in the top template. All right. So this is actually a very common kind of question for them to ask you. They'll say which one of the following could be true, given some information, or maybe not given any information, but a lot of times it's given some particular information that they give you for that question. They ask you what could be true, and the way it turns out that you have to work that question is you sometimes have to split it into two possibilities, draw them both out, and then pick an answer that is true on one of them. Now let's say that we had these same possibilities and they asked us what must be true, okay? Aside from what they told us outright, which was that H was in 1 and Y, H and Y were both in 1, aside from that, is there anything else that must be true? If we were answering a must be true question, we would need it to be true in both templates, right? Because these are both valid solutions to the game, so that if we say that it must be true, that means it's true in every possible solution. So if we look at these two solutions, we see that actually they have nothing in common except for the H and Y being in 1, which means that they couldn't ask us what must be true unless they just wanted to, they wanted us to pick an answer that just repeated what they gave us in the question, which they would never do. So they couldn't ask us a must be true question here because there's nothing in common between the two templates, and that's the only way that something could be an answer to a must be true question. Okay, let's wrap it there and go to the next video.